Hello YouTube, how's it going? Jamie Wilson, your boy, back again for another video. I know, another one. Okay, so we're here. We have made it. 2020 is here. Another year, another decade. Can't believe it already. But, we will not, and I repeat, we will not disregard some of the amazing music that has come out, not only this past year, but this past decade. So what I would think I would bring to you guys today is my own personal top 10 artists of the last decade. Now, let me give some background context. Now, I feel like a lot of great music has actually come out this past decade. There has been some incredible music all across all sorts of genres, really. I thought, why not take this opportunity, being that it is the beginning of 2020, to come on here and bring you my personal top 10. And I want to know exactly what your top 10 is for this past, not if it's past year, it's the past year, but if you want to think deeper and go the past decade, go for it in the comment section below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you my top 10 and what I kind of thought were the highlights of each of those 10. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before I do, I just want to let you know that my social medias are not up here, are up here. Please follow me on my Instagram, my Twitter. Let me know what you thought of the video, things like that. I'll always love your feedback, and don't also forget to, let me try and get this right because it's all backwards, like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel, because 2020 is going to be absolutely incredible. I cannot wait. Let me get this started with number 10. Right, here we go. So behind this little YouTube button is my number 10, which I can reveal to you as Attila. Attila have been a completely amazing band these past couple of years. So I started getting into Attila back when they supported Black Veil Brides in, I think around about 2014 it was, they were supporting. And I remember standing there in the queue waiting vigorously for, I think that was my second ever gig. And the Attila guys actually came out and started talking to some of us that were at like the front of the line. We didn't think really anything of it because we didn't actually know who they were at the time, but when they went on stage, it was absolutely insane. I've been to Attila more times than I can count. I've actually got a vlog that's further back in the channel if you haven't seen it, where me and Jidge actually went out to an Attila gig, afterwards went to the Cat House for a drink and started drinking with Attila, and it was, honest to God, incredible. Some of the most fun times I've ever done. In 2014, when they had their latest album was About That Life, some of the songs like Middle Fingers Up, About That Life, Break Shit, it was honestly, it was so good. I really felt like we were missing like an extremely heavy band at that point, and I felt like they were the best ones to get into at the time. Guilty Pleasure came out. I thought it wasn't too bad. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was actually a really good album, but there wasn't much to really say about that. But when Chaos came out in 2016, I adored that album. I thought it was absolutely genius in every form of the word. It was amazing. Songs like Let's Get Abducted and Bulletproof, Public Apology, and it was all like this. People thought that, you know, Franz had said things that might have been considered out of line, and he was bringing out this, you know, apology for doing so. But then, I mean, I knew that it wasn't actually going to be an apology because he doesn't really tend to give a shit, but the fact that like he came out with that and it was an absolutely incredible song, and they did so well for themselves doing things like that, it was genius. I actually did a reaction to their latest album Villain, which I actually thought was actually a really good album. Songs like Blackout, Still About It, which I think is like a sort of About That Life Part 2 sort of thing, I thought was incredible. I really enjoyed it. But there you go, that's my top 10. So my number 9 is quite a weird one, so I kind of wanted to make this my list, not because I know there's a lot of like my classic nostalgic emo stuff that are in this top 10, I can already tell you, but the fact is I wanted to throw at least one or two in that might have actually thrown people off when watching this video. And so I made my number 9, and a lot of people aren't going to get this, but I'm sticking with it, is Stormzy. It's a weird thing, and I don't know why I've been so into Stormzy recently. It's been quite a recent thing, these past maybe about year and a bit. I've been listening to Stormzy quite a lot. I mean, he came out with an album called, what is it, Gang Signs and Prayers, which I didn't really think much of because I'm not really into the whole big time London grime sort of thing. It's not really sort of my scene all that much, but I don't know what it is about Stormzy. I thought that his stuff was brilliant. Some of the things that he was talking about in his songs, some of the really guttural sort of down to earth kind of stuff was coming from, and the fact that he's done so many collaborations with people like, you know, Ed Sheeran and all that, which I thought were brilliant, because I actually appreciate Ed Sheeran. I think that he's a brilliant artist, absolutely incredible voice. But when it comes to songs like Big for Your Boots and all that, you know, really chopping down the people who think that they're hot shit, is genius. First Things First, absolute banger. Return of the Rucksack, like, these things, I don't know why I like it, but I really did. And when it came to him releasing his new album that he actually did very recently, and I was considering about doing a reaction video to, but I didn't know how you guys were going to take it, so I decided against it, is Heavy Is the Head. I don't know why. I think that basically this entire album is absolute gold. I think it's absolutely genius. There was one song that I have been absolutely hooked to on this album, which is called Pop Boy, with that new sort of grime artist as well, H. I don't know why I love it, but I think it is genius. The beat on that is unreal, absolutely unreal. But the things that come out from, or like the lyrics that Stormzy ends up kind of creating and stuff like that, I think are actually really clever, which I very much appreciate. Much like there's a line in the last track called Vossy Bop. Basically, one of the lines in the song is the fact that, and I think it's very big and bold of you to say, especially when you're the kind of big personality that you are, is I think it's fuck the government and fuck Boris, which I can totally wholeheartedly agree with. I absolutely hate everything to do with politics in the UK right about now. I absolutely hate it. So the fact that Stormzy, on the platform that he's on, said something like that, I think is so ballsy and amazing, and I absolutely love it. So my number 8 for you guys is, I think, kicking right the way back into the sort of like, you know, slightly more emo stuff and things like that, is in fact Ice Nine Kills. Now, before their absolute gem of an album in 2018, which I'll get to in a minute, I thought that they were pretty decent for who they were. I think I saw them support, it was Motionless in White at the time I saw them support on, and they were bringing out, obviously, they're very much similar as Motionless in the fact of, like, you know, things like horror songs, things like that. All this real evil guttural kind of shit came out, and I thought it was brilliant. There was the song that really had me hooked to them when I was sat there watching them was Me, Myself and Hyde, which was a song taken from the whole Jekyll and Hyde perspective, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And the fact that the title, Me, Myself and Hyde, genius, absolute genius. And Communion of the Cursed, something about that chorus I absolutely loved, and it had me stuck to the band completely ever since listening to them live. But then when they hit in 2018, they had themselves a theme on their album, and it was a gem of an album, was the Silver Scream, where every single song was themed after a specific horror movie, and I thought it was brilliant, absolutely genius, beyond genius. The fact that, like, even from a lot of the titles you can actually tell which song was allocated to which movie, and when you actually listen to how heavy it is, how destructive, the lyrics that link so well with the movies and things like that, I think was absolutely genius. And I could wholeheartedly give them my approval on that album. I wish at the point that they released this, I was heavy into doing my album reactions, because there was no question at all that I was going to do a reaction on that album. I absolutely loved it. Loved it in every form of the word. But also on a side note, the fact that they were re-releasing some of their songs on that album, but as things like acoustics and low gains and stuff like that, I think are absolutely brilliant, because there's one, I think it's Grave Mistake. I think that a Grave Mistake, they re-released it as an acoustic later after the album came out. I think that's even better than the original song that they made. It's honest to God, amazing. It was actually one of my albums of the year, and I'm not gonna lie about that. So here's my number 7, Falling in Reverse. Now, I've been a fan of Falling in Reverse for a good while. I think it was around about the time, it was about 2013 when they released Fashionably Late, was when I really started getting into them. So, like, classic weird songs like Bad Girls Club, Rolling Stone, things like that, Alone, and then stuff from, like, their first album back in, like, 2011, with things like, you know, Good Girls, Bad Guys, Drugging Me As You, I thought was absolutely brilliant. It was like bringing that proper emo out of me, and I was absolutely loving it. When it come to, like, some of their newer albums and stuff, I kind of ended up sort of like phasing away from Falling in Reverse. I mean, some of their songs from things like Just Like You were not bad, but I didn't think were great. But like things like, Chemical Prisoner I thought was a great track, all of that. But when it came to Just Like You, I thought that the album was okay. Then when it came to Coming Home, I was very on the fence about that entire album. I really wasn't. And now you guys might be thinking it's weird how they've placed so highly in my list for the year. And it's mainly because of the shit that they've been coming back with. So a lot of your Losing My Mind, I thought was genius for them coming back. I thought it was a brilliant sort of comeback song to kickstart a new album cycle when they eventually decide to release it, which you best believe I'll be doing a reaction on. Losing My Mind, and then after that they came out with Losing My Life, and that was even better than Losing My Mind. I was actually like on a real sort of high from this. I thought it was absolutely incredible. Ronnie was starting to bring in a lot more of the rap stuff along with the metal, and it really coincided really, really, really well. Then they came out with Drugs. Drugs was incredible with a surprise feature that they didn't mention on it of Corey Taylor from Slipknot, which fit so well. I knew the millisecond that Corey came on vocals, I knew for a fine fact it was him. There was no even real questioning about the fact of who that was. I knew for a fact that that was Corey, and I absolutely was obsessed with that song for so long. But then recently, and it was towards like the end of November, they actually came out with a song called Popular Monster, and that was a surprise song that they put out. I don't even think they actually had much of a build up to it. They just released it and thought, fuck it, let's do it. And oh my god, it's amazing. If you have not listened to that song, another one that I was actually contemplating about doing a reaction on, it was the fact that I wasn't around and about my setup to be able to do a reaction for it. I don't know how things went about, but I ended up hearing the song a little bit sooner than what I hoped, which kind of bummed me out a little bit because I thought it would have really made a great video. But it's just one of those things. I'm not going to catch every banging song as it comes out, but I can catch as many as I can. It's been more the recent stuff that's been kicking me back into the Fallen Reverse Circle. I've still always wanted to see them live, and still to this point, Ronnie's still banned from the UK, so I have no chance in seeing them yet because apparently it's not getting lifted anytime soon. So I cry. So my number 6 is Motionless in White. So I probably got big into Motionless in White when it came to their Reincarnate album back in 2014. It was the song itself, Reincarnate, that I thought was absolutely genius. It was so heavy, it was so guttural. Obviously they stick to this whole horror theme, which I thought was brilliant because I'm very much into things like that, what they can come up with. And when it came to the video and they had like all this 19 whatever black and white sort of really creepy kind of video and things like that, I thought was brilliant. And when I listened to that, I kind of went back into their older stuff. I thought that their Infamous album was amazing. Devil's Night from the Infamous album is probably got to be my top favourite song from Motionless. I thought that was so heavy, and the guitar tones on that song are incredible, and I've always tried with my own guitar to try and replicate that sound, but I've not been able to yet, and it makes me cry every single time. But then an absolute gem for them struck when in 2017 they came out with easily has to be their best album they've ever put out, Graveyard Shift. Oh my god, I cannot tell you how long I was jamming out to that album. It was seriously ages. Every single song on that, with bar probably about one single song that I didn't think was all that great, but the rest of the album is absolutely flawless. I thought was a genius album. The fact of getting Jonathan Davis up on a feature on the tracks in Necessary Evil, Voices, 570, Hourglass, Eternally Yours, which they also made into an acoustic, Queen for Queen. It was amazing. It was easily my favourite sort of album cycle. And it was the fact that it was that album cycle that I actually got to see Motionless perform. I was so happy with. So happy with. If I have any clips from any of the gigs that may not be up on YouTube, I might just start throwing these up here and there throughout this video. And in terms of the last album, Disguise, I mean, if you guys have already watched it before, if you guys have stuck around on the channel before, you've seen that I've already done a reaction to it. It is an enjoyable album. I did think it was up there, but I thought that Graveyard Shift had that little bit of an edge to make it that bit of a better album. Still an absolutely banging album nonetheless. Motionless have done good these recent years. Very, very, very good. So my number 5, we're getting into the top 5 now, is the legendary Slipknot. as any Slipknot fan will know, that Slipknot's album activity to touring to then taking a break is very choppy. It's very, very long. So for anyone that doesn't know, they'll do an album, they'll tour for that album for as much as they can all around the world, and when it gets to a certain point that they feel that they're done, they will take a hiatus, and their hiatus will last years. But everyone knows for a fine fact that they will come back for another album. It's just inevitable. It's just a when is that going to happen, but it always happened, it always comes back. So to really talk about the last decade, I actually can't go as far as Slipknot's self-titled, just too far away. I'm only talking about the last decade, so I'm not going to be getting into things like All Hope Is Gone and everything like that. So if anyone's hoping for that, I'm sorry. As much as it hurts me, I am sorry as well. But there's only really 2 albums I can talk about within the last decade. Chapter 5, The Grey Chapter. I think I was in high school when this album came out. 2014 I would have been. Christ knows how old I was. I thought the album was heavy as anything. I thought it was a brilliant comeback for Slipknot. I felt it was a bit further away from their really old first album stuff, sort of like I really think that my favourite Slipknot time had to be first album. It was rage that you had on everything in the world just compiled into one, and you could just feel what went into the sorts of albums. And don't get me wrong, you feel it in every single one. All the creepy stuff, all the sort of evil, guttural, raw, sort of heavy shit, really. It's just been, they've been brilliant. They've been absolutely brilliant. So they did The Grey Chapter in memory of Paul Gray. Rest in peace, Paul. Songs like Kill Pop, The Devil and I, Custer, The Negative One, Be Prepared for Hell, things like that. That album was absolutely brilliant, and I didn't actually think it was going to get better than that until. And you've seen me react to it before, We Are Not Your Kind, which I think is a godly album. Absolutely amazing. I don't think a lot of the true, really, really, really old Slipknot heads appreciate that album as much as people who may have loved the band from before. I mean, I've been about the band thing since I think it was between All Hope Is Gone and maybe self-titled. I can't really remember. It's all so vague. I got into a whole lot of bands very, very quickly, but the fact that they came back with the first song back, Unsainted. I mean, you've seen me react to it before if you've already been a part of the channel. There's so many songs that I feel that they've really brought their heavy dark outlook on life into a sort of newer kind of age, and I think that Slipknot are really going to come back and take over the world, much like they did in their early days. 14 Year Old was probably my favourite song of that entire album. I mean, have you seen the video? It's absolutely incredible. Even things like Solway Firth as well. Solway Firth is an amazing song, and I'm so glad at the fact that in not even 2 weeks' time they are going to be in Scotland, and I will be there with a new gig vlog, and it is going to be amazing. So stick around, subscribe right there. It's going to be insane. And I know for a fact that after that gig there is an after party at the Cat House in Glasgow, and you bet your boy's going to be there. Oh, I'm going to be there, and it's going to be amazing. So this brings me to my number 4, MGK. Now, I think that might be another one that might throw off people. I mean, especially folk that don't know me as well. I've reacted to his latest album on my channel already. If you haven't picked that up, MGK has actually done extremely well over these past years. The fact that he's branched from music into things like movies, TV shows, things like that, he's really branched himself out, and I think is absolutely brilliant to get that wide array of all the different sort of things that you can do. I first got into MGK when I was on my first year of download because he was playing, and I remember that all the friends that I was with were really looking forward to seeing him, and I didn't think much because I was like, oh, it's just like some rapper that's at download. And then when I watched him, I thought he was genius. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. This was maybe around 2017 kind of time when his album Bloom came out, which I did not take to all that well to start off with, but it very, very much grew on me, and I think is brilliant. Honest to God, brilliant. I got into his album before with things like General Admission. I definitely thought that things like Till I Die, but Alpha Omega was my shit. I love that song. Even just the fact that it was me and a bunch of friends and things like that who would sit and listen to MGK. I'd do travels down to England to see some of my mates from Download, and it was the fact that we would literally just have this giant MGK party where we're just riding in the car, absolutely belting songs like Breaking News was where it was at when I was jamming out. Honest to God, MGK's basically brought up some of the best memories ever, and not to mention it was MGK where I met Attila, my glamorous assistant. When his EP Binge came out, I was a bit on the fence about it, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think it was amazing. Some of the songs I took to pretty well, things like Loco and GTS. I absolutely hated the song Signs. I thought it was shit just because of the fact that whoever the fuck that guy is that features in it is awful. I hated him with a passion. That was around and about the time when MGK and Eminem were getting in their beef together over God knows what, and MGK released Rap Devil, and I thought that song was the best way to fire at someone ever. I thought it was genius. No other person that was going to take shots at Eminem was going to do a better job other than MGK, and I can guarantee that I would stand behind that forever. But the fact that he is now actually very recently retired the song Rap Devil and will no longer be performing it live breaks my heart. But I did see it live, and that's good enough for me. Hotel Diablo, when that came out last year, oh my god, I thought was great. There were so many deep, dark, just really evil kind of, it's not really evil, but like such deep messaging songs came out. There was Hollywood Horror, Glass House, which is one of my favourites, Burning Memories, and then you have your bangers like El Diablo, Floor 13, Roulette, all that entire album realistically was absolute gold. 53666, tell me you don't love that song. That is an amazing song. It's so good. I just can't even get into it. Every so often there was actually a couple little singles that MGK would drop out here and there, like the recent one, Why Are You Here, that he dropped back in about mid-December of 2019. Absolute banger. They did a song for that Will Smith movie, Bright. It was called Home. I'm gonna say that movie was a bit shit, not gonna lie, but the song was a banger. The Breakup as well, but all those single little singles that he would just bring out here and there just because he felt like it. Honestly, I can't even explain how good they were. He could just release a song and I'd be jamming it for weeks. Absolute weeks. So that is my number 4. Number 3, Bring Me the Horizon. Now this one was a bit of a touch and go one for me. So the There Is a Hell album that came out in 2012 was so fucking heavy. It was unbelievably heavy. It wasn't the point that I got into. When I did start to listen to them, I did very much go back into their older stuff and listen to that. So with songs like Crucify Me, It Never Ends, Blessed with a Curse was actually one of my favourites. I don't know why, but I absolutely loved that. When I got into them was about 2013 when they came out with Sempiternal, and honestly I loved that album. I still do love that album. I think it is brilliant. Songs like Sleepwalking, Can You Feel My Heart, Shadow Moses, honestly they're incredible. These songs are basically my childhood, I'm not gonna lie. When they came to 2015, that's when they brought out the absolute movement of an album. That's the Spirit. I remember that might have been the first time that I saw them when they were on the That's the Spirit tour, when things like they were branching away from the heavy, coming with like Happy Song, Throne, True Friends, Follow You, and Drown. Drown was an amazing one. Coming out with all these songs, and obviously these were the songs that were putting them really on the map. It was the stuff away from the absolute heavy that they used to do, and making themselves absolute classics of, like, you know, things like, I wouldn't say emo songs, but you kind of know where I'm getting at if you kind of get what I'm talking about here. But these songs were absolute movements. Whether you like that album or not, you can't deny that it's the fact that it's one of the biggest albums that Bring Me has put out. It's probably the biggest album that Bring Me have ever put out, and it was absolute god tier. It was next level god tier. I had myself a keychain before it actually broke of Bring Me's album there. The umbrella that used to sit on my keys, but then I remember it broke in my bag or something like that. But I've always kept the umbrella. I might hang it from my mic or something like that. That seems like a cool idea. Now here comes to probably Bring Me's most touchy album that they've ever put out, was 2019's Ammo. people were very on the fence when that first came out. Now, I can definitely tell you, full confidence of the fact that when that album first came out, I thought it was a bit shit. I wasn't gonna lie, it came right away from Sempiternal, right away from That's the Spirit, right away from There Is a Hell, and it was just horrible. When I first listened to it, it was horrible, and I thought that was the point. That was like Bring Me Dead, basically, and I didn't know what else to think of it. But I kind of listened to it more and more, and I really, really, really like it. Before, I used to absolutely hate like things like In the Dark and all that. It used to be too like, you know, cringe, too techno, too this, too that. And when I really got into it, there's actually a load of songs that I actually really enjoy from that album. Things like Heavy Metal, Mother Tongue, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, Medicine, Ouch, Wonderful Life, In the Dark, Mantra. Like, basically the majority of that album that I think is amazing now. But that was definitely coming from a lot more than just one listen. The first listen, I thought it was horrible and I never wanted to touch it again. But really getting back into it, it was a really good album realistically, but I think that one that people will, I think, always be touchy. Then very much recently you saw that I did the reaction to, is it Go To, their EP thing that's just weird, and I think I'm always going to hate, but I don't think you can really class that as a Bring Me the Horizon EP. I think that was more of a Bring Me the Horizon project rather than their own EP, so I'm not really going to critique on that all too much. Here we go, top 2. If anyone that knows me could probably guess which 2 these last ones are going to be, but I'm going to need to reveal it. My number 2 is Asking Alexandria. Oh my god, were these guys my absolute shit. Now, I'm not going to lie, the start of the decade was where Asking were untouchable. So powerful, but they've had a lot going on in the last decade, I'm not gonna lie. First album is easily my favourite album that Asking will ever put out, probably, which is Reckless and Relentless. Honestly, that even though that album was so fucked up and so awesome, it was that classic rock and roll vibe that it was basically the life I've always wanted to live was portrayed in that. And much like, if anyone's seen the Asking Alexandria mini-series that they did over 3 of their songs, my favourite thing ever, when they came out with To The Stage, that was easily, and still easily is, my favourite song that Asking have ever put out and will ever put out. Love that album to the end of the earth and back. The Death of Me, it was a bit more of a softer version of Reckless and Relentless, but it was still so heavy. The idea of like girls doing the drugs and the vending machines, things like that, I thought was a really cool concept. It was really deep, really meaningful. It came with a lot more sentimental songs like Moving On, Don't Pray For Me and all that. It was still that classic Asking sound, which I had loved for so long, and I've been a fan from Asking for God knows how long now. Then Asking kind of took a turn for the worst. Danny then left and got replaced by Dennis Stoff, who is just shit. And they came out with The Black. Because I had such a love for Asking, I really, really, really wanted to like their album The Black. I really did. I pushed it too hard, and then when I really listened to it back now, and I've not listened to that album in years, and I have zero intention of listening to it ever again. I can't get over like how much I disliked that album, and it was the fact that I didn't think that there was any way back because Danny had left. No one thought he was coming back, and that was it. I remembered catching the last Scotland show that Danny ever did with Asking, and then after that it was just Dennis, and I thought that Asking were never going to be like they were before. But then, to everyone's surprise, Danny returned. Fuck knows why, but... So he came back, and Asking came out with their self-titled, I think it's like their 5th album or something like that, which was... It was a good album. Not gonna lie, it was a good album, but it took a lot of getting used to. I mean, it was Danny coming back from doing his solo country stuff, and he came back very, very soft. Everyone was hoping for him to come back and to be like just what it was, and things like The Death of Me, things like Reckless and Relentless, Stand Up and Scream, but it really wasn't. Danny wasn't really all that much into the screaming as he was before and things like that. He wanted to kind of take it easier, make different kinds of different kinds of songs, still I guess heavier in a way, but not as what it has been. Still a decent album. It's definitely not their worst shit. The Black will always be their worst album, but with things like Into the Fire and all that, When the Lights Come On, it was Danny using different parts of his vocals other than absolutely destroying them through screaming. But they've done a good job. Out of the stuff that they've done in the past decade, you can give them credit where credit is due. They were the absolute kings at one point, and I would never, ever, ever consider taking that away from them. And here we are. We've made it, the final #1 band, and I get the feeling that everyone is going to know who this last band is, and it is someone that I have been latched to for the best part of 11 odd years, something like that. It's been an honest to God amazing time, which is, and I know that some people might even hate me for it, but Black Veil Brides. This was my mantra. Black Veil, honest to God, lived and breathed Black Veil at one point. Absolutely lived and breathed them. They were the best thing that was ever going on. And I know for a fact that my BVB bro, well, I know that sounds like a little bit gay, but fuck off, my G Fraser, and I know for the fact that you're going to be loving me just talking about how amazing it's been this past decade, because we've been listening to Black Veil ever since like first, second album, things like that. It's been unreal, and it was always me and Fraser that were listening to this stuff. This was like the one thing that bonded us so close. Album that got me latched, Set the World on Fire. Set the World on Fire. It had the classic Kiss, Motley Crue, weird kind of contortion emo look. It was mental, absolutely mental, and there was no real words that I could describe it. Things like that. Set the World on Fire, Rebel Love Song, The Legacy. Oh my god, The Legacy. I could not. There's so many songs that I could go on about Black Veil for forever, and I know that I'm going to speak about them for way too long. Set the World on Fire was the first time that I was ever actually latched to Black Veil. I would not take that back for the world. I really wouldn't. I loved Black Veil ever since their start, really. But I've only just noticed that We Stitch These Wounds is actually 2010, so Black Veil have gone on for a decade this year. We Stitch These Wounds, I'm also going to say, an incredible album. It really was. Things like Knives and Pens was the first song I ever listened to from Black Veil, but Set the World on Fire was the one that got me really into them. But Knives and Pens, things like that, Perfect Weapon, absolute emo classics. My absolute emo classics, my total childhood. I can't even express how much of I loved these songs. Then it came to probably my favourite Black Veil album that ever will be, which was Wretched and Divine. I don't think any Black Veil Pride fan will ever say that they dislike Wretched and Divine. It was honestly the best thing ever. It came out with probably the biggest song ever, In the End. It had, Shadows Die, Devil's Choir, Wretched and Divine's the song, honestly. The fact that they had all these music videos and that all tied together about the rebels, and they had their music videos out in the sand. It was honest to God an absolute classic. It was probably one of my favourite albums of the decade ever. I think that might even be the #1. It was amazing, and the fact that Fraser has even gotten as far as getting himself the tattoo of just Wretched and Divine on the inside of his arm, and I could tell right as soon as he got it, he was just like, he knows, because he knows that was the best album that probably ever was. 2014 was also an incredible year for their album BVB 4. The songs that came out for that, and I even remember sitting with Fraser waiting for, I think it was the midnight launch of the songs that went up live on things like YouTube and stuff like that, and we sat and listened to the album right the way through. Probably numerous times. I can't even remember that far back. It was numerous times, and it was so good. Absolutely amazing. I was in love with that album, and it honestly spiraled into so much. It was 2014 that I first saw Black Veil Brides live, and I thought it was one of the best nights of my life at one point, where we met Attila. I can't even remember who else was playing then. Fraser probably can, no doubt. Fraser, if you're watching this, remind me in the comments who it was that was playing that night. And it was them, Attila, Fearless Vampire Killers. I remember them, and I can't remember who else. I know that there was someone else, but I just can't remember. 2018 they released Veil. I thought that album was not bad. It wasn't great when I first listened to it, but then I really kind of got into it over time, because it's Black Veil. I was always going to give it, and if I wasn't going to like it, give it another shot and things like that. Try and ease myself into it if I wasn't going to like it right off the bat. Songs like Wake Up I thought was brilliant. When They Call My Name was a weird one for me, because of the fact that song I thought was very mediocre when I saw it. It was when they performed it live on that co-headline tour with Asking, was the fact that when they were performing it, they had on their screen, behind them when they were playing the song, it was all these flashback clips to when Black Veil were doing their first album, things like that, and it really was bringing tears to the eyes. It was really bringing a whole lot of nostalgia, because that album was 2018. Like, I'd been listening to Black Veil for like the best part of like 8 years or something like that. It really kind of brought me right the way back to what I used to be when I was younger, and thought that song, like, now forever, that will probably be my favourite song on that album now, just because of that one live performance that I saw. And then finally, as you've seen the songs that I've also reacted to, the duologies, as they're being called, The Night, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but they're coming out with 2 songs every so often, instead of doing, well, obviously at some point down the line they'll do like a full album, but for now they're releasing just 2 single songs and dotting them here, there and everywhere, and you know for a fact that I'm going to react to all of them. I mean, it's Black Veil, I'm never not going to react to them. And there you go, guys, that is my top number 1 Black Veil Brides, and I would never go back on that, I would never even question that. But hey, that has been the video. That has been my top 10 artists of the last decade. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, like it, subscribe and comment. I want to know what your top 10 was. Maybe a little reasoning behind it. You don't have to, or just list a 10. Let me rate it. I'll do it. And I want to start a conversation with you guys. I want to see what you guys thought. What was your last 10 years of music like? This was mine. This was mine in a video form. I want to know what you guys' 10 years was like. But that is that. Follow me on... I'm always so backwards with this. Follow me on my social medias to stay updated on all the videos. That's where I post, everything like that. I'm keeping the ball rolling for the best year on YouTube being 2020. I really, really, really want to push it. So this is just another video to get that done. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, everything like that. And I shall see you guys for the next video, whatever that may be. So until then, peace.